What's going on, folks? Ted from Immersion here, and I'm here to talk more about Spelljammer Adventures in Space. Shocker, it's going to be a focus here for the next little bit, mixed in with some other things. And this time we're going to be talking to you about the magic items as well as the spells. There's a couple of spells and a couple of magic items, including what I would consider almost like a secret magic item that's not covered in the magic item section of the book, but due to the search feature of D&D Beyond, we're able to pull that out as well. One, take an opportunity to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But two, I wanted to talk to you about the sponsor for today's video before we dive into that Spelljammer coverage. And today's sponsor is Factor. Now, you've heard of Factor before. I've worked with them in the past. They're a company that provides a bunch of really awesome meals that get delivered right to your doorstep from a variety of different things: breakfast, lunch, dinner, shakes, desserts, things of that nature. The menu is refreshed every week. There's like 27 different options and a bunch of different add-ons you can do. And I've used them in the past myself personally, and I just really like the food because it does a bunch of things that I just don't have time to do, right? There's options depending on, and if you're worried about, your lifestyle, whether it's keto or vegan or vegetarian, there's options for all of that kind of stuff. The food is already prepped, ready to made. You don't have to actually cook it. It's pretty much all just, you can heat it up in the microwave and it tastes amazing. It's fresh, never frozen stuff. There's no prep, no mess. It's better and higher quality than doing any kind of takeout. And for gamers or content creators like me, food is usually like I'm either ordering something junk food wise to just get it just delivered to my house because it's fast, or I just don't eat because that's an easy thing that I can shove off to focus on the other stuff I want to work on. Take yourself 2 minutes, pop it in the microwave, get yourself a good healthy meal, and then get right back to gaming or whatever the case may be. So I've got a deal for you today. So if you go to my link, which is down in the description down below, or to go.factor75.com and use the code POGNERD130, yes, that's right, POGNERD130, you'll get $130 off across 6 Factor boxes. And, it's also a pretty cool setup that Factor has. So for everybody who signs up using my link, that'll actually benefit me monetarily as well. So thank you to Factor for sponsoring this video. Let's dive into our Spelljammer related content. So if you were to go to look at the Astral Adventurers guide, as you can see right here, you'll see that under the second chapter here, Astral Adventuring, we have something that says magic, and it says spells and magic items. So if we were to go to the spells, you'll notice that there are only 2 spells. And I don't know about you guys, but me personally, I was looking for something. I thought I was going to get some more like cool, I don't know, space themed like offensive magic. Instead, it's pretty utility stuff. Again, stuff that makes sense that you'd want to have when you're in space, like for instance, the air bubble spell, which it's weird that it's artificer, druid, ranger, sorcerer, wizard. You would think that anybody that could conjure magic could make a bubble for their head. I don't know why bards, clerics can't do it. Like, air bubble is literally a life-saving spell. I feel like a cleric should have it. Really, anybody that can cast a spell, I feel like, should be able to cast air bubble. But either way, because here's what it does, right? You create a spectral globe around the head of a willing creature you can see within range. It's filled with fresh air and it lasts until the spell ends, which is 24 hours non-concentration. It has a range of 60 feet. If the creature has more than one head, the globe appears around only one of the heads, which is all the creature needs to avoid suffocation, assuming that all of its heads share the same respiratory system. And then if you cast it with higher level spells, 3rd or higher, you can create 2 additional globes of fresh air for every slot above 2nd level. I really don't see why they specified a tight class lists on this. It definitely feels like something a cleric should be able to do, or a bard, or a warlock, or really even a paladin and a ranger. I really don't see why anybody, if you're going to be in Spelljammer in wild space and the potential of not having air, shouldn't everybody be able to do it? And then the last one is create Spelljamming Helm. This is for the artificer and the wizard. And this, we'll talk about what that means, but it's a 5th level spell. It requires 5,000 GP worth of materials that are consumed. It's touch range, 1 action, but it immediately makes a Spelljamming Helm, right? So holding the rod used in the casting of the spell, touch a larger, smaller chair that is unoccupied. The rod disappears and the chair is transformed into a Spelljamming Helm, which we will cover when we jump down here to the magic items. The Spelljamming Helm is essentially the magical seat of power, if you will, that allows you to pilot this helm, right? But let's look at the other magic items, because there's more to talk about with Spelljamming Helms in a sec. So we have the Fish Suit here, which is a very rare magic item. It's basically a space suit. This bulky suit, which fully encases your head and body, takes a minute to don and doff. While worn, it enables you to breathe in airless environments and renders you immune to the harmful effects of any gas that surrounds you. The suit also grants you a swimming speed equal to your walking speed while underwater, or a flying speed if you're, in an area with no gravity. Then we have the Spelljamming Helm, which is what you're creating with that 5th level spell. And you can see here is a variety of different chairs showcasing what they look like when they become a Spelljamming Helm, right? And it requires attunement by a spellcaster. So the function of this ornate chair is to propel and maneuver a ship on which it has been installed through space and air. It can also propel and maneuver a ship on water or underwater, provided the ship is suited for such travel. The ship in question must weigh 1 ton or more. The sensation of being attuned to a Spelljamming Helm is akin to the pins and needles effect one experiences after one's arm or leg falls asleep, but not as painful. While attuned to a Spelljamming Helm and sitting in it, you gain the following abilities for as long as you maintain concentration, as though concentrating on a spell. You can use the Spelljamming Helm to move the ship through the air, space, or water up to its speed. If it's in space and no other objects weighing 1 ton or more are within 1 mile of it, you can use the Spelljamming Helm to move the vessel fast enough to travel 100 million miles in 24 hours. You can steer the vessel, albeit in a somewhat clumsy fashion, in much the same way a rudder or oars is used to steer a seafaring ship. And at any time, you can see and hear what's happening on or around the vessel as though you are standing in a location of your choice aboard said ship. It says you can also use an action to touch a willing spellcaster and transfer the Spelljamming Helm, attune them to it, basically transfer ownership. And then we do have this cost of a Spelljamming Helm here, a little sidebar. It says a Spelljamming Helm propels and steers a ship much as sails, oars, and rudders work on a seafaring vessel, and a Spelljamming Helm is easy to create if one has the proper spell. Wild space merchants, including Doers and Marcanes, typically sell a Spelljamming Helm for substantially more than it costs to make. How much depends on the market, but 7,500 gold pieces would be a reasonable demand. A desperate buyer in a seller's market might pay 10,000 GP or more. Again, if you don't have someone, an artificer or a wizard, with access to that spell to do it, you're kind of lost without it. Then we have the Wild Space Orrery, an uncommon magic item. Inside a wild space system, this portable arcane device automatically tracks the position and movement of all suns, planets, moons, and comets within that system, projecting a display of all these bodies in the space above its current location. In that display, a white pulsating pinprick of light marks the Orrery's location. So this is essentially your star map, right? Computer pull up the star map and it shows everything and it shows where you are. Now, again, the only other thing is if we search for magic items with the source of Spelljammer's Adventures in Space, it does give us this Talarith, which is a legendary magic item, but it's not something that you'll typically be able to use because it requires attunement by the Rygar who created it. It says the Rygar who created this piece of jewelry chooses its form, bracelet, brooch, diadem, or necklace. While the Rygar wears the Talarith, any weapon wielded by the Rygar deals in an extra d6 force damage when it hits. As an action, a Rygar can use its Talarith to summon a Golem that looks just like it. The Golem obeys its commands and uses the Rygar statistics, except it is a construct that doesn't have a Talarith of its own. The Golem vanishes after 1 hour or when it's reduced to 0 hit points. After summoning a Golem, the Rygar must finish a short or long rest before this property can be used. I'm sure that comes up in the course of the adventure, or at least in the stat block for the Rygar itself. But again, this is always something that you could take and utilize to transpose or reskin to be something for anybody to use. But at the base form, it is a piece of jewelry that gives a person who hits with the melee weapon a d6 force damage, but then you also have this duplicate golem summoning. I wonder if you could use, it only lasts for an hour, so it's like, could you use this to pilot the ship? But I don't know, the golem's technically not a spellcaster. But it does use its statistics, so maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe you guys have a great idea for how you could use this kind of golem that you create from it. And I'm sure there's some pretty wonky stuff you could do if you really kind of sit down and think about it. So, yeah, unfortunately, I was hoping for a lot more cool and like crazy spell-faring magic items. Space blasters, right? Some sort of cool laser gun. I know there is some contained in the Dungeon Master Guide, so I know that I'm aware of that. But like, I don't know, I was expecting some more cool space-themed magic items, some cool, like, teleportation, wild space, void, black hole style magic. I don't know, I thought I'd be getting something along those lines, and really, it just kind of falls short in that respect. And say what you will, but I can't help but wonder if the 64-page limit is what cut back on a lot of that. Again, if you were to look at what was in the Astral Adventuring Guide, uh, and you were to look at the table of contents, I mean, we had to cover the 2 backgrounds, the 6 races, the spells and magic items, basically a page, maybe 2. But then tied into this is all of the stuff about being in space, 16 different ships, and then basically the hub world. I feel like some of this could have been shifted around or just double the length of these. Again, like I said, I use Eberron as an example. Eberron's 320 pages as a campaign setting. This is 180. You know, there's some content that obviously could have been added here, but I don't know. Maybe you're supposed to consider the first 4 adventures from Spelljammer Academy and the 10 free Monsters from Monsters Compendium Volume 1 to be part of this. Then that pads it out a little bit, but I don't know. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Once again, a huge thank you to Factor for sponsoring this video, and I will see you all next time.